In Hollow Knight Silksong there's tons of different areas for you to explore in the land of Farloom, but not all were created equal, so today I'm going to be ranking them all from worst to best. And starting off at number 23 on my list, the absolute worst area in the game has to be none other than the putrefied ducts. Now probably a lot of you watching this video haven't found this area or been here yet, and if so, you should be glad. The putrefied ducts has at least a cool premise, an area where once crystal clear waters flowed, but now pollution from the sludge produced by the citadel has turned everything into a poisonous bog. But in game this doesn't mean anything. To get to this area you have to go through another one that will be coming up soon, which is very similar but notably larger. So the putrefied ducts feels just like a random extra part of that area. It doesn't help either that there's basically nothing here. No bosses or major upgrades. The only notable thing is the flea caravan moving here at the end of their journey, which is kind of fun. I feel like anyone who's had the mispleasure of going through this area would not find it crazy to have it at the bottom of my list. Next up, in the 22nd spot, or second worst, is the Hunter's March. Now, your opinion on this area will change a lot depending on where you are in the game. In the end game, there's some cool stuff here. You have to find Scarsinger Carmelita here and defeat her, as well as track Gur the Outcast. But in the early game, this area is basically useless. I've seen a lot of hate online for this area due to its difficulty spike compared to the previous areas. But I think the real issue is that the first time you come through here, basically everything is off limits. You obviously can't go after Carmelita or Gur yet, and you can try the Savage Beastfly if you want, but I mean, good luck with that until you've upgraded your gear. And even then, all you get is the Beast Crest. To summarize, this area will feel way harder than the previous ones, and you don't even get anything for bothering. Next on the list at 21st, the final in the podium of worst areas, is the Agonizing Bile Water. Bile Water is the area I previously alluded to when talking about the putrefied ducts, and Bile Water has all of that area's issues and more. That infested water will coat you with gunk if you fall in, make it require heal to get rid of, as well as passively draining your lace at the same time. The enemies are annoying flying ones that even respawn after a little while, and the even worse bush creature things which jump out of the undergrowth and fire poison darts at you like prime dark goggins. Then if you get through all that, the boss Groll the Not So Great is actually pretty bad. You have to fight a few waves of enemies before even getting the attempt to fight him. And if you die, I pray you found the hidden bench, else you'll have to trek back through the entire area like I did. The only reason Bile Water isn't last place is because it at least has a few saving graces. It contains the mini area The Mist, which will have you going through a seemingly endless sprawl until you somehow get out. Don't ask me how, it took me like 30 minutes. But then you fight the awesome Phantom boss and get the parry ability. If it wasn't for the Mist and Phantom, Bile Water would comfortably be bottom of the list. Next up is the Sinner's Path. There is nothing fun about the Sinner's Path. There is nothing memorable about the Sinner's Path. In fact, it's so forgettable, you probably didn't even realize I'd been calling it the wrong name this whole time. The Sinner's Road has a whopping one interesting thing about it, which is the Green Prince being locked up there. Even the boss is pretty boring. Genuinely, the best thing you can do in Sinner's Road is get kidnapped and transported to a Citadel black site, and that's saying something. Next up is the Wisp thicket, probably the third most secret area in the game, and for good reason because there is nothing here. The enemies are pretty dull to fight, and the boss fight mechanically is just a joke, but at the very least it has a cool and unique setting, and lore is interesting about who these people are, who their god is, and why they decided to set up shop in between Greymore and the underworks. Now at 18th on the list out of 23, we get to a notable point. This area and all areas afterwards I felt were actually somewhat enjoyable to play through. If you told me Bile Water was all just a nightmare, I'd be elated. But if you told me the wormways was just a bad dream, I'd wonder how I fell asleep watching June again, and then feel slightly sad. the wormways would probably win the award of least ambitious area. Nobody is going to say, oh, the wormways could have been so much better if they... Instead, the wormways just focuses on what it needs and cuts out all the extra stuff. Edge of the map like the Howling Cliffs in the first game? Check. Fun little weaver nest tucked away with the sharp dart upgrade? Check. Cool side quest to find the lifeblood plants that just somehow find their way into Farloom? Check again. Just don't ask it for anything else at all and you'll be fine. Next up is the White Ward. Now, I decided to rank this area separately from the rest of the Citadel because it feels and looks so different from all the rest, which have been lumped together. So sorry to all you High Halls fans, but it is not getting its own spot on the list. The White Ward was hard to rank because its lore and atmosphere is easily some of the best in the game. The idea of what seems like a hospital actually being basically a euthanasia center to farm silk off of unwell bugs is such a cool idea. And the eerie atmosphere matches perfectly with some actually spooky enemies and tense moments. Especially later on when poor little Sherma decides to delve in and has to be rescued. So it has all that going for it, then has one of the worst bosses in the entire game as its conclusion. The Unraveled is such an awful boss, I'm glad it's hidden away, because I hope people don't have the mispleasure of fighting it. The fight starts with a few waves of normal enemies, the same ones every time by the way, then this fat lump that has exactly 3 attacks, charge in a straight line because everybody loves attacks where the boss just moves towards you, shoot a few projectiles, or appear in the middle and make more spears appear for a few seconds. If this fight lasted a minute or something, I wouldn't feel so strongly about it, but when I got to this boss in the game, having got every needle upgrade available until then, this boss took like 5 minutes each attempt due to its ridiculously huge HP pool. It's such a shame putting such a cool area this low on the list, but the boss really is just that bad, and the cool lore and ambience sadly isn't enough to redeem it.
I actually pressed it already.
Couldn't hurt to press it again.
But it won't help. No, 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 no. Wait. Wait.
Guys?
Next up is the underworks. And I'm gonna be honest, this area was just pretty dull. Like, we've all seen this aesthetic before by now. After all, who hasn't played Rayman Origins? Next up is the Shellwood. This area was actually pretty fun to explore. It's where you unlock the wall climb ability, and just like in the first Hollow Knight, getting this ability really opens up the map and makes traversal feel a lot better. Shellwood doesn't have the best boss roster of all time, Sister Splinter is a bit basic, and way later on you'll come back for Shrine Guardian Seth and Nylath, both of who are pretty mediocre fights, at least Nylath is very unique I guess. But it doesn't matter so much because the area looks really nice, with the waters below and then thick treetops further up, and collecting the poplip hearts was great fun as well. At 14 on the list we have the Marrow. Now this area is great mostly due to it being the first real area you'll explore and doing a good job of it. For bosses you have the infamous Bell Beast fight, which we now know is basically the Bell Beast playing with us, and then later on there's the Skull Tyrant fight. The only problem is that there's not much reason to come back later on. The Flea Caravan moves on very quickly and that's about it. The area design more than makes up for this though. Next up is the Far Fields. I really like the design of this area. Not often you see the lava grassland combo, which is pretty cool. And boss wise it has the great fourth chorus fight and the... Later on in the game you can also find out who this dude is and race him, which is very fun. The regular enemies in this area aren't great. Most of the actual aggressive enemies are just ants from Hunter's March. So it would have been cool to have seen a bit more variety. Getting the Flow Cloak is nice. It's cool to get an upgrade through a different means in the Weaver Shrines, and using it on the air currents of this area is great fun and allows for this area to have a lot of vertical movement. Good boss, fun gimmick, but maybe the area's a bit too massive for just that. Just on the cusp of being halfway through the list is Greymore. I feel like how much you like this area correlates directly with how many times you died to the Maulwing. I personally didn't find them that difficult, so I had a good time here. I really like the design of this area. The first part you find really reminds me of Dirtmouth from the first game. But then there's like a rundown factory sort of area, and obviously the Cruel Lake, which again you'll probably not like if you kept dying to those birds. Greymore also has the luxury of being an area you'll keep coming back to. There's the fun side quest to get some of the innkeeper's old wine from his basement, where you'll have to defend the vintage from an invasion of ants, and the flea caravan moves here as well. This area sort of acts like a hub between areas. It leads directly to Bellheart, the Wisp thicket, the Sinner's Road, and even Verdania, although of course you won't be able to do much there until you get the Niederlin song. Next up, at 11th on this list, is the Slab. Now, I found this area really cool and different because I got caught by this dude in the Sinner's Road who promptly took my clothes and weapon, leaving Hornet with just regular melee attacks. Having to sort of escape the prison is great fun when you find the different keys for different doors. I'd even have to go into the frigid outside a few times, which is a good introduction to the cold mechanic. The fight once you finally get your stuff back is good fun, but the bosses are a bit of a mixed bag. The Broodmother is pretty average, but the first Sinner is a great fight. It's awesome how you have to interact with the Weaver Shrine to free her, and then the fight itself is really fun and unique. My only gripe with the area though is that they need to add some way of telling you that the apostate key isn't there. I don't know how they could do this, but they had me searching every nook and cranny for it to randomly be in some guy's body in the other side of the world later on. Now we're into the top 10, and at number 10 on this list we have Bellheart. Now, Bellheart is a bit of a weird one because it's almost just like a mini spin-off area. When you first arrive you get a spooky cutscene, but you can't actually do anything here until you get the wall climb. Then once you get that, it's very quick to get to the Widow fight. This fight is really good fun, probably one of the best in the game, and the reward being the Niederlin power is just great. Just a quick aside, I love the Niederlin as a long-term fan of Ocarina of Time. I love the mechanic of using your instrument to interact with the world, and it's nice to be able to find out a bit more about what characters are feeling, like you could with the Dream Nail in the first game. Going back to Bellheart, the reason it's not higher on this list is because there isn't a ton to do here. The main room itself is somewhere you'll be coming back to often to get more side quests and needle upgrades, but that's about it. And if you for some reason do spend your hard-earned rosaries on your own house, it won't be so nice in Act 3 when the place turns into a ruin again. Next up is the Deep Docks. This is the last of the simply decent areas in my opinion. All the ones after this are very good. The Deep Docks is an area that gives you a lot of reason to go back throughout the game. To begin with, you unlock the Swift Step here, and then have the amazing first bout against Lace. Later on, when you get your claws on a simple key, you can return here and enter into a new mini area containing the Flintstone tool, probably my personal favourite. This area also has the Forge Daughter, but funnily enough, her little buddy Ballo is the real important character here. As well as telling what I can only guess must be hilarious stories, he will also operate the diving bell for you, allowing you to enter. This area also just looks really cool and is pretty fun to traverse. Next up is Bone Bottom, the first area in the game you explore, and yes, I am counting the Moss Grotto and Weaver Nest as part of Bone Bottom. Moss Grotto actually had a vote and 98% wanted to be a part of Bone Bottom, so there you go. Despite being the starting area, there is a lot here and a lot of cool moments, like the area becoming gradually more developed as you donate rosaries, until the Skull Tyrant comes for a rematch and nearly destroys the whole town. Thanks to the hard-working descendant of the Menderbug, it gets back into shape only to be finally ruined for good in Act 3, with the sad sight of the Fox Thief enemies being the only life left. Not even the mighty statue of the Fixer Bug remains intact. But beneath Bone Bottom lies the Chapel of the Snail Shamans, which is a key location in Act 3, and also where you get the Shaman Crest. Weaverness Atla is also found here, with Eva inside her tank, and some cool records as well in a hidden room. Next up is I think going to be a controversial pick, and that is Mount Fae. Now, Mount Fae doesn't really have any boss of its own. I mean, you can optionally fight the Pinstress here if you want, but that's it. It doesn't even have any enemies except the 1 or 2 weird laser robot things. Instead, Mount Fae is an area all about platforming. So if you're like me and love platforming, you maybe beat the Path of Pain in the first game, then you're gonna love this area. But if you're someone who does not care at all for the platforming, then you'll hate this area. Not only is some of the platforming tricky, but you're also always on the clock because too long outside in the cold and you'll begin freezing to death. It's all worth it though, because once you reach the peak of the mountain, the reward is awesome. I'll show you now. At number 6 on this list we have the cradle. Now the cradle is basically the exact opposite of Mount Fae. Where that area was all about platforming, the cradle is literally just about boss fights. Firstly, a rematch against Lace in a pretty bed of flowers. And then secondly, against the person who's been literally pulling the strings the whole time, the Grandmother Silk. Now, if you like the game's boss fights, you'll love this area. But if you're in the crowd of people who are the reason they nerfed the Maulwing, then you're not gonna like this area, as there's nothing to do here except boss fights. This is also where you can get 2 of the game's endings, but those will be discussed in a future video. Taking the first spot in the top 5 is the Blasted Steppes. This area is the last one you'll go through before reaching the Citadel, and what an area it is. Firstly, I have to talk about the awesome Last Judge boss fight. This has also got to be one of the best ones with fair attacks and fun counterplay. More than any other in this list so far, however, the Blasted Steppes has such an atmosphere to it. What once was a tropical area is now flooded with sand and strong winds, and the sentinels are rusting away. It reminds me of that poem I had to analyse in English class, and also the name of that Breaking Bad episode, Ozymandias. In that poem you learn of a statue that reads, "My name is Ozymandias, King of Kings. Look on my works, ye mighty, and despair." Except this statue is basically rubble, and nothing around can be seen except endless barren desert. That's the long way of saying the Blasted Steppes has a cool vibe, and one explored even further in the next area. This will probably be the most controversial ranking on my list, because on paper this area doesn't have much going for it. The dual conchflies is a really fun fight, but the raging conchfly is awful. The platforming can be annoying with the flying enemies and spikes everywhere, but its atmosphere and story is just too cool. This area was seemingly once underwater due to the coral everywhere and the sights you see in the memory of the Coral Tower. The Coral Tower itself I found great fun to go through. You'll enter it through the memory of the statues in the base of the remains of the Coral Tower, and then have to fight your way to the top and face the Crust King Khan. Khan is probably one of the easiest fights in the game, but that feels nice because of all the enemies you had to fight to even reach him. I can understand if people would put this area a lot lower on their lists, but for me the idea of an underwater kingdom turned desert is just too interesting. At third best area in the game we have Lost Verdania. Now this area is probably the most hidden one in the entire game. Whilst you can technically go there very early, as it's just off the side of Greymore, all you'll find are some empty caves. Later on in the Memoriam in the Citadel, you can find some remains in this area, and a tablet saying that Verdania will soon be a completely forgotten and extinct area. However, using the power of the song the shamans teach you in Act 3, and after freeing the Green Prince from his cell, you can play the song by the corpse of his brother, and enter into the memory of what the land was once like. It used to be an incredibly luscious jungle with vibrant wildlife and flourishing inhabitants, but somehow died due to the Citadel and Grandmother Silk's power. In this area you can also fight the Green Prince and his twin, The fight is basically the same as the Clockwork Dancers, because it is the twin princes who are the inspiration for those machines. Awesome looking area, fun boss fight, and the lore of it is really cool too. We should have seen it coming. You can't escape the Abyss after all. It was always there long before Farloom and Hollow Nest, and will still be there long after. Where do I even start? You enter the Abyss using the diving bell mentioned earlier, which unfortunately breaks on the way down, leaving you stranded. To escape, you have to use the newly unlocked Silk Soar ability, and then barely make it to the surface. In the Void, you see the same crawling bugs that were in the first game, but also these hideous new Void enemies. I think this has got to be one of the coolest enemy designs I've ever seen. It's the perfect mix of awesome and horrifying. When you return, you have to fight the corrupted Void version of Lace, aka Lost Lace, which is the true final boss of the game, at least for now. This boss fight is awesome and a true test of your combat abilities, as she has 3 entire phases. And the ending, wowee, it was stunning. I wasn't going to show any endings in this video, but I can't not show this because of how awesome it was to see. Obviously, if you don't want to get spoiled, skip ahead to the final section. And finally, in first place we have the Citadel. I doubt it's much of a surprise as it's the focal point of the whole game. You spend most of your time in Farloom just trying to reach it, and once you get there it does not disappoint. It has a large variety of areas, from the Coral Halls to the Memoriam, and each feels pretty distinct and fun to explore. It also has some of the best bosses in the game as well, with the Clockwork Dancers and Trobio being notable ones, which are both great fights, as well as this awesome fight against a whole horde of enemies. The Citadel also has the first shrine, which is the 3rd mini hub town in the game, and where you'll see a lot of NPCs, which is nice. Being real, there wasn't any way this wasn't going to be number 1. It's just such a large, high quality area, it couldn't be anywhere else. Well, that's all for today. I hope you enjoyed this video and my thoughts on the different areas, but I want to hear your thoughts too. I read every single comment, and if you think the Sands of Correct shouldn't be in the top 10, I'd love to hear why. As always, thank you for watching and have a great day.